Alistair Scott.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise in support of this bill, and the Financial Responsibility and Transparency Amendment Bill is absolutely appropriate for this bill. The last speaker spent most of his time looking backwards, describing his point of view of the history of the ACC Act. Mr Speaker, I'm a person who likes to look forward. I'm not interested in what has been, I'm more interested in what is to be. Mr Speaker, the last speaker talked about unnecessarily high levies, artificially increasing them, elevating, rip-offs he talked about. Well, Mr Speaker, that's why this bill is here, so there is no debate, there is no argument. This bill is about financial responsibility and transparency. So it will eliminate the question marks about whether levies should be here or there, or everywhere. So that's what it's about. And I guess that's why the members on the other side are supporting this bill, which is a good thing. But, Mr Speaker, I'd like to point out the principles. There are principles involved in this bill. There is funding policy statements that must be made by the Minister. There are reports that must be prepared and published by the corporation. And those policy statements and reports must turn their mind to a number of things. Mr Speaker, the word must, Mr Lee Galloway is looking for the word must in section 166A, in that the ACC should have no flexibility, no flexibility around setting of the levies. But as we know, sir, the assets on the balance sheet of the ACC levy accounts move around hugely. The volatility was described by Jonathan Young earlier, and because of that volatility, because interest rates move around, because equity markets move around, because foreign exchange markets move around, so does the liability and the asset involved, and to varying degrees. So for that reason alone, the reports must include things like the long-term projections. The bill talks about projections. It talks about notifying key assumptions 3 times in section 3315B(a)(2), the word assumptions. And that's because there is no crystal ball in this thing, Mr Speaker. That is why flexibility must be ingrained in this bill, because there is no certainty around the assets that are held by the corporation. And that is why, again, the principles are referred to as the levies derived for each account should meet the lifetime cost of the claims. If an account accumulated surplus funds that deficit or surplus should be corrected, and large changes in levies should be avoided, thus giving the flexibility that is required and necessary in this bill, sir. Mr Speaker, that is the thrust of this bill. It is a good bill. It's similar, in my view, to the target band that the Reserve Bank should be targeting. And that's the analogy that I'd like to bring to the House, sir. If we made the Reserve Bank compulsorily be within their band, have consequences, fire the Reserve Bank if he doesn't, we would have been through many Reserve Bank governors by now. Again, it's a target, and then when the inflation target is outside the band, there is explanation, there is reporting, there is transparency. And so, sir, the Accident Compensation, Financial Responsibility and Transparency Amendment Bill does the same thing, giving information to the public so that they themselves can see how the levy is being collected, understand why the levies may be rising and falling, and gives the public the confidence that the ACC levies are being collected and administered fairly. Mr Speaker, I'm very pleased to support this bill.
Good.